All right, so let's look at number two. Number two, we are told to solve this equation by completing the square. Now, whenever we complete the square, we're always looking for the standard form of a quadratic equation, and the first term in the quadratic equation, the a term, needs to be a 1. And we have that here. We have a 1, an invisible 1, that is there in front of the x squared. And in order for us to complete the square, we're going to be looking at our b term after we've confirmed that a is a 1. And we're going to say b over 2 squared. Now, what is b over 2 squared? Well, b over 2 squared is what we're going to be adding to both sides of the equation so that we can complete the square. So we look at what our b term is here. Our b term in this case is 14 because b is the coefficient of x, and b is not 14x, it is only 14. I know students sometimes confuse that. Whenever I ask them what b is, they'll tell me 14x instead of just 14. It's a common mistake, but it's okay. Not the end of the world. So we plug in our b, which is 14, put it over 2 and square it, which gives us 14 divided by 2, which is 7. 7 squared is equal to 49. So 49 is what we're going to be using to complete the square. So we're going to add 49 to both sides. When we add 49 to both sides, we get 49 is equal to x squared plus 14x plus 49 minus 15. What we just did here in this bit right here is we completed the square. That there is now a perfect square trinomial. And that means we've completed the square. So now we can just kind of solve for x. And whenever we get a perfect square trinomial here, which is what's always going to happen when you complete the square, you can use the shortcuts that we learned previously for factoring a perfect square trinomial and just put it in a factor form. Use the shortcut. So the shortcut is we're going to be having a factor form, and it's going to be squared because that's just inherent to the perfect square trinomial. And we could work it out if we need to, but I'm just going to do the shortcut, which is x. I mean, I'm going to look at this symbol right here, and so it's going to be a plus there. And then we're going to look at our last term, and we're going to take the square root of it, which in this case is 7. So if you don't believe me, you can use the box method and factor this, and you're going to get x plus 7, or x plus 7 times x plus 7, which is x plus 7 squared. Pause the video and do it yourself if you don't believe me. Now this is still equal to the 49 minus the 15. And now we can just solve for x, using our typical solving for x methods, techniques that we've learned. So in this case, what we're going to do now is we're going to add 15 to both sides. We're going to do the inverse of subtraction, which is adding. So then we get 64 on this side is equal to the x plus 7, that's about 7, x plus 7 squared. Now, what's the next step that we do here? If you said taking the square root, then you're right. We need to get rid of that square. To get rid of the square, we need to square root both sides. On the left side, that square, the square root of 64, well, that's 8. And it's equal to x plus 7. Now, some of you with the keen eye might have realized that this isn't the only solution here. It's not just 8 equals this. There's also a negative 8 equals x plus 7. Why is there a negative 8 equals x plus 7? Well, because when I take the square root of 64, sorry, I'm doing that. when I take the square root of 64, I'm asking you what two numbers will multiply to 64? Well, 8 times 8 will give me 64, but also negative 8 times negative 8 will give me positive 64. So we're going to have two solutions here. It's not just one. Delete that. So we're going to have two solutions here. I'm going to do it with our train tracks. Now, we don't really need these parentheses anymore. They're just there for show at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. We're going to get 1 is equal to x. That's one of our solutions. And on the other side, we're also going to subtract 7 again. But this time when we subtract 7, we're going to get negative 15 is equal to x. And that is our other solution. So that there is completing the square.